The ground beneath you is cool, wide, and undisturbed. A long stretch of ancient earth that has never known roads, walls, voices, or names. You stand in a world before memory, before cities, before the endless noise of human wanting. And the first thing you notice is how gently everything exists. The air carries the faint scent of dry grass, wet stone, and distant rain that has not yet arrived. Around you, the land opens in slow, rolling plains, broken only by dark clusters of low trees and the soft rise of ancient hills resting under a pale sky. Nothing here has been built. Nothing here has been arranged. The earth is simply being itself, and because of that, your mind begins to loosen almost at once. There is no urgency in this place, no glowing screen, no unfinished message, no pressure to become anything by morning. Only time and the earth exist. You take a slow breath, and even that feels older here, as though the air has been waiting millions of years for lungs to notice it. Somewhere far away, a large animal moves through tall grass with a sound so faint it almost disappears before it reaches you. You do not need to follow it. You do not need to understand it. You are safe here, held inside a prehistoric quiet, so complete that your thoughts begin to soften at the edges. The sky above is not dramatic. It does not try to impress you. It simply stretches, pale and calm, carrying a few long clouds that drift with no destination. And as you stand there, at the edge of a humanless world, something inside you begins to unclench. Nothing is rushing anymore. The earth has no plans for you tonight, except rest. You begin to walk, not because you need to arrive anywhere, but because the land seems to invite slow movement. Each step presses gently into soft dust and sparse grass, leaving a mark that the wind may erase before long. There is comfort in that. Here, even your presence is temporary and light. The plain around you glows in muted shades of gold and green. Not bright, not demanding, only quietly alive. Small insects hum in the heat close to the ground, and somewhere ahead, a cluster of ancient shrubs trembles as a hidden creature passes through. The world is active, but never loud. It breathes around you in small, patient motions. A line of dark volcanic stone rises from the soil nearby, half-buried and warm from old sunlight, and you trail your fingers across its rough surface as you pass. It feels steady, ancient, uninterested in anything except remaining where it has always been. You begin to understand why sleep feels closer here. In the modern world, everything asks for your attention. Here, nothing does. The sky does not ask. The grass does not ask. The wind moving low across the open plain asks nothing of you at all. It simply touches your skin and moves on. You let your shoulders drop. You let your jaw soften. You let your thoughts become less organized, less important. Somewhere in the far distance, beyond the shimmer of heat, there are shapes moving slowly. Large prehistoric animals crossing the land with the same patient rhythm as the earth itself. They are too far to disturb you. They belong to this silence. And now, for a little while, so do you. You keep walking through the quiet, as if entering a dream that has existed long before you and will continue long after you fall asleep. As the earth continues its slow breathing, you notice how different silence feels when it is alive. This is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of a world that does not need words. The grasses lean and recover under the touch of the wind. A bird-like call rises once from somewhere unseen, and then fades so completely it feels absorbed into the sky. In the distance, ancient trees stand in uneven clusters beside a dry stream bed, their branches dark and still against the brightness of the plain. You make your way toward them at an unhurried pace, feeling the texture of the land change beneath your feet, from open grass to packed soil scattered with stone. Every small detail seems to slow your thoughts further. The shape of a weathered rock, the shadow of a branch, the way the air cools slightly as you leave the open sun. There is nothing to solve here, nothing to fix. No one is expecting anything from you in this old, untouched world. You are simply another breathing thing moving through evening light. That realization settles over you like a blanket. You are safe here. You do not have to hold yourself so tightly anymore. The earth beneath you is old enough to carry every thought you forgot to put down. You do not need to keep carrying them alone. And so you let them become lighter. You let them drift apart like dry seeds in the wind. The ancient trees ahead offer shade without ceremony, and when you step beneath them, the light becomes softer, greener, quieter. The sound of the plain behind you dims. The leaves above barely stir. It feels as if you have crossed a threshold into something even older, even slower. Time does not move quickly here. It stretches, it settles, it almost disappears. Now, standing in the shelter of those early trees, you feel the first true distance from the modern world. Not just physical distance, but emotional distance. The kind that lets your nervous system remember what rest was meant to feel like. The ground here is cooler, layered with fallen leaves, old bark, and patches of damp soil that hold the scent of deep earth. A faint trickle of water moves somewhere nearby, hidden beyond the roots and stone. And the sound is so soft, it seems to come from inside the silence rather than breaking it. You lower yourself onto a broad flat rock, still warm on one side and cool on the other, and let your body become still. The ancient plain beyond the trees glows under fading light, and for a moment, the whole world seems suspended between day and evening, between movement and sleep. This world has never known engines, alarms, crowded streets, or electric light. Night will arrive here honestly, with no interruption, and that knowledge soothes something deep inside you. You do not need to prepare for tomorrow. Tomorrow does not exist yet. There is only this prehistoric evening, this quiet body, this slow air entering and leaving your lungs. Only time and earth exist. The phrase settles into you like a rhythm. You are safe here. Nothing is rushing anymore. The trees do not hurry toward darkness. The sky does not resist its own fading. Even your thoughts, once sharp and restless, are beginning to move more slowly now, as if they too are learning the ancient pace of this place. And somewhere in that great, humanless silence, the earth begins to carry you gently toward rest. Morning does not arrive here with clocks or alarms. It returns as a soft brightening over the endless plain, as if the earth is slowly opening one eye. You rise from your resting place beneath the ancient trees and step back into the wide openness, where the grasses hold silver traces of early moisture and the air is cooler than before. The horizon seems impossibly far, a thin, quiet line where pale land meets a pale sky, and between those two distances, your body feels smaller, lighter, and less burdened by thought. You begin to walk again, slowly, because this world asks for nothing faster. The grasses brush against your legs in long, whispering strokes, and each step becomes part of a rhythm older than language. There are no signs here, no paths, no names for where you are. And strangely, that feels kind. Without labels, the land becomes simpler to receive. You do not have to understand where this plain begins or ends. You only have to be here while it breathes around you. The wind travels low and steady over the earth, bending the grasses in great soft waves, that move like the surface of a sleeping sea. You pause to watch them, and it becomes impossible not to breathe more slowly. The land seems to teach your body without words. Inhale, exhale. Nothing is rushing anymore. Far off, dark figures move in a loose line across the open distance. Too far to hear, too far to disturb the calm. They cross this ancient world with the same quiet purpose as the clouds above, and you feel no need to follow. It is enough to witness them from here, from this gentle edge of stillness. The plain is not empty. It is full of life that does not demand your attention. That may be why it feels so peaceful. You are not at the center of anything here. You are simply allowed to exist. And in that permission, your mind begins to loosen a little more. As you continue across the grassland, the sunlight grows warmer but never harsh, spreading across the land in broad, patient layers. The ground beneath your feet changes almost imperceptibly, softer in some places, packed and dry in others, occasionally broken by ancient stone that rises through the soil like the memory of old fire. You step around low mounds and shallow hollows shaped by rain, wind, and passing herds over countless seasons. Nothing here is perfectly smooth, and yet everything feels settled. You begin to notice how the plain holds time differently than the modern world. Here, time does not cut the day into pieces. It stretches gently across the land, blending moments together until they become less separate, less sharp. You stop beside a long, weathered rock and rest your hand against it. The stone is cool on one side, warm on the other, carrying the memory of night and the touch of the growing sun at the same time. It has been here through storms, migrations, droughts, and silent mornings like this one. It has remained. That steadiness moves through you in a quiet way. You do not need to solve your life out here. You do not need to decide everything today. The earth has never rushed to become itself. It simply continues. The thought passes through you like warm light. Nearby, a cluster of low prehistoric shrubs stirs with the hidden movement of some small animal making its way through the stems. You hear the faint rustle, then stillness again. Even the smallest lives here seem to move with care. The air carries the scent of dry grass, mineral dust, and something faintly green from a distant water source you cannot yet see. You keep walking toward that invisible freshness, not because you need to arrive, but because your body trusts the slow direction of the land. You are safe here. There is no schedule waiting beyond the horizon, only the plain, the wind, and the long, patient silence of ancient earth. And somewhere in that open silence, the land begins to widen even more. The grass is thin, giving way to broader stretches of exposed earth, where your footsteps make almost no sound at all. A few scattered trees appear far apart from one another, shaped by wind and long seasons of endurance. Their shadows lie short and quiet against the ground. You move between them without hurry, feeling the warmth of the sun settle gently across your shoulders, while the air still holds enough coolness to keep your body relaxed. It is a perfect balance, the kind the earth creates when no one is trying to control it. The sky above remains clear, except for a few high drifting clouds, and as you walk, you begin to feel as though you are moving inside a painting too vast to see all at once. Every direction offers space. Every direction offers room for your thoughts to become less crowded. In the modern world, the mind often presses inward, trapped by noise, walls, and expectation. But here, in this prehistoric openness, your mind begins to spread outward like the plain itself. The things that felt urgent become smaller. The things that felt heavy begin to lose their edges. You do not forget them exactly, They simply stop gripping you so tightly. A warm gust of wind moves through, carrying the dry sweetness of old grass and the faint dusty scent of distant animals. You close your eyes for a moment and let it pass over your face. It feels like the earth, reminding you that rest is not something you have to earn. It already exists, waiting quietly beneath all the noise you carried in with you. Only time and earth exist. The phrase returns again, softer now, more familiar. And because the land around you keeps repeating its calm in 100 small ways, the bend of grass, the stillness of stone, the slow passage of shadow, your body begins to believe it. Eventually, the plane lowers into a shallow basin where the air feels slightly cooler and more still. The grasses here are greener, thicker, touched by hidden moisture below the surface. You know without needing to see it yet that water must be nearby. A few birds circle lazily overhead, and somewhere beyond a low rise in the land, there comes the faintest sound of movement. Not wind, not grass, but the quiet ongoing life of a prehistoric world continuing without witness. You walk toward it with no urgency at all. By now your breathing has become slower than when you began. Your steps have become softer. Even your thoughts arrive less often. And when they do, they pass through you with less resistance. This ancient place is teaching you something simple and almost forgotten, that you are allowed to exist without performing, without proving, without staying mentally awake for every possible danger. The world around you is alert enough. The earth is holding everything in its own slow way. You do not need to hold it too. The rise ahead catches the sunlight along its edge, and beyond it, just barely visible now, is the soft silver line of water lying still among reeds and low stone. You stop for a moment before descending, letting the sight of it settle into you. A prehistoric pool, untouched and patient, waiting in the middle of all this open quiet. The plain behind you stretches back toward the trees, toward the dawn you have already left behind. And ahead of you, the land promises something even gentler. The day is not building toward activity. It is deepening toward calm. And as the earth continues its slow breathing, you follow it onward, already feeling yourself sink more deeply into its ancient peace. The water waits in stillness, as though it has been resting here for ages, with no need to announce itself. You step down into the shallow basin slowly, feeling the earth soften beneath your feet, as dry ground gives way to damp soil and low green growth. The pool is not large, but it feels important in the quiet way ancient things often do. Its surface reflects the pale morning sky so gently that for a moment it looks less like water and more like a piece of silence laid flat upon the land. Thin reeds rise from the edges. Smooth stones rest half submerged in the shallows. A faint ring of animal tracks circles the softer mud, each one already beginning to blur at the edges under time, wind, and the light touch of evaporation. Nothing here is owned. Nothing is permanent. And somehow that makes everything feel more peaceful. You kneel near the edge and place your hand against the damp ground, cool and dark beneath your palm. The earth here remembers water in a deeper way than the plain above. It holds softness. It holds patience. The air is quieter too, with less wind reaching into this low place, and the stillness settles around you like a gentle covering. When you look into the water, you do not see a clear reflection of yourself, only a soft, shifting shape touched by ripples, sunlight, and drifting fragments of sky. It feels right that way. In this world, you are not here to define yourself. You are here to become quieter. A small insect skims the surface once and vanishes. Somewhere nearby, hidden in reeds or stone, a creature moves with a faint, careful sound and then becomes still again. Nothing startles you. Everything belongs to the same calm. You breathe in the scent of wet earth, mineral-rich water, and green, growing things warmed by early light. The scent itself feels grounding, like a message from the planet before language ever existed. You are safe here. Nothing is rushing anymore. Only time and earth exist, and both are moving slowly enough now for your mind to begin letting go. You remain near the pool for a while, not because you are waiting for something to happen, but because this place seems to invite a deeper kind of stillness. The reeds sway almost imperceptibly in the faint breeze, their reflections trembling softly in the water, like thoughts that no longer need to become words. You notice how prehistoric silence is never truly empty. It is layered. Water holds one kind of silence. Grass holds another. Stone carries its own deeper version, heavy and unchanging beneath everything else. Above you, the sky continues to open into a wider blue, and in that widening, your thoughts seem to spread out and thin. They no longer gather so tightly. They no longer crowd the inside of your mind with unfinished shapes. A dragonfly-like creature passes through the air in a flash of delicate motion, then disappears beyond the reeds, leaving the stillness intact behind it. You dip your fingers into the edge of the pool, and the coolness moves up your hand and wrist in a way that makes your whole body feel a little more awake and a little more calm at the same time. The water does not resist you. It does not react. It simply receives the moment and then becomes smooth again. There is something deeply soothing in that. You begin to understand that this ancient world does not ask you to be anyone specific. It does not reward performance or punish slowness. It simply allows existence. The idea settles into you quietly. You let your shoulders soften further. You let your face relax. You let your body feel held by the basin, by the ground, by the low circle of reeds and stones and open sky. In the distance, far beyond the rise you descended, the plain continues under sunlight. But down here, time feels slower still. The air is cooler. The sounds are fewer. The world seems to have stepped closer to sleep, and without trying, you are beginning to follow. As the earth continues its slow breathing, you rise and begin to move along the edge of the pool, where the ground is firm enough to walk without sinking. Your steps are careful, but not from fear. It simply feels natural to move gently here, as if anything sudden would be too modern for this place. A line of dark stones curves along one side of the water, worn smooth by countless seasons, and you follow their shape as they guide you toward a narrower channel where the pool quietly overflows into a thin stream. The water moves almost soundlessly at first, then with the faintest silver murmur, where it slips over pebbles and roots. You pause there and listen. It is one of the softest sounds you have heard in this prehistoric world, and perhaps because of that, one of the most comforting. Not every silence must be complete. Some silences are made more beautiful by one gentle repeating sound. The stream bends away into grasses and low brush, disappearing from sight after only a short distance. But its presence changes the feeling of the land around it. The plants are denser here, greener, more alive with hidden movement. Tiny creatures leave faint disturbances in the stems. Something small drinks from the far edge of the water and vanishes before your eyes can fully follow it. You do not need to identify it. You do not need to know what it is called. In a world before labels, it is enough to witness motion and let it remain mysterious. That mystery does not make you uneasy. It relaxes you. Not everything has to be explained in order to be beautiful. You keep walking beside the stream, feeling the slight coolness that rises from it and touches the air around your body. The sky above is now bright, but down here beside the water, there is shade in patches, softness in every direction, and a sense that the earth is carrying you somewhere quieter without requiring you to know where. Soon the stream begins to disappear beneath thicker growth, weaving under leaning branches and through low places where roots hold the soil together. You slow even more, not because the land becomes difficult, but because the world around you seems to ask for a gentler attention now. The open plain is behind you. The sky, though still visible, appears in smaller pieces through leaves and branch shadows. The sounds of water, reeds, and hidden life continue softly around you, like a lullaby too old to have ever been written. You reach a place where the stream widens slightly beneath a cluster of ancient trees, their trunks broad and textured, their roots pressing into dark, damp ground. Sunlight filters through the leaves in pale, moving patterns, touching stone, bark, and water in quiet intervals. You stop there and feel, more than think, that this is the beginning of another layer of the prehistoric world, a more sheltered one, a more inward one, the kind of place where the mind naturally lowers its voice. You stand in the shade and let the cool air settle around your skin. You are safe here. Nothing is rushing anymore. The same words return, but now they feel less like a thought and more like part of the land itself, as if the earth has been repeating them all along, and you're only just beginning to hear them clearly. You take one long, easy breath and watch the water slip past roots and stones with endless patience. There is no hurry in its movement, no effort, no need to be anywhere except exactly where it is. And somewhere in that ancient softness, with the sky now partly hidden and the world narrowing gently into shade and green silence, your waking mind loosens a little more, preparing to drift further into the quiet heart of this old, untouched earth. The trees gather around you in a loose, ancient shelter, their trunks rising from damp ground in quiet, irregular shapes, each one different, each one deeply rooted in a world untouched by human hands. You step beneath them slowly, following the stream as it threads through shade and filtered light, and at once the air changes. It is cooler here, softer, carrying the scent of wet bark, crushed leaves, dark soil, and old water moving patiently over stone. The open sky has not vanished, but it no longer stretches endlessly above you. Instead, it appears in pale fragments between leaves and branches, like pieces of a distant memory. That narrowing of the world feels gentle rather than confining. It allows your mind to focus less on distance and more on presence. The stream continues beside you, never loud, never dramatic, just quietly alive. Its sound becomes part of the forest's breathing, a slow and constant murmur beneath everything else. Small movements happen in hidden places. Somewhere in the undergrowth, a branch shifts. Somewhere overhead, leaves tremble for a moment and then rest again. None of it feels threatening. This is not a forest of fear. It is a forest of age, of patience, of life existing without needing to explain itself. The trunks around you are broad and rough, with surfaces textured by seasons beyond counting. Some lean at angles, shaped by wind long forgotten. Others stand upright and still, as if they have been listening to the same silence for centuries. You place your hand against one as you pass, and the bark feels cool, grounded, real. That simple contact quiets you further. There is comfort in touching something that has no urgency in it. In the modern world, nearly everything vibrates with expectation. Here, the trees ask for nothing. They only remain. You walk deeper beneath them, with your breathing now matching the slow pace of water and leaves. You are safe here. Only time and earth exist. The thought does not arrive as language, now so much as atmosphere. It is in the shade. It is in the roots. It is in the way your body no longer feels like it has to be alert for every possible thing. The ground underfoot becomes softer as you move farther into the prehistoric forest, layered with fallen leaves, smooth stones, old bark, and dark patches of moss that hold coolness even as the day brightens beyond the canopy. Your steps make almost no sound. When they do, the sound is small enough to be absorbed at once into the earth. The stream narrows, bending around exposed roots and disappearing briefly beneath a low tangle of ferns and ancient brush before reappearing again in silver fragments. Light filters down in shifting patterns that move slowly over the forest floor, touching one stone, then another, then fading. Nothing here stays fixed for long, except the deeper stillness underneath it all. You begin to notice how the forest does not feel crowded, despite the closeness of trunks and growth. Instead, it feels layered, protective, full in a way that allows you to disappear into it without being lost. That is a rare kind of peace, to feel held without being watched, to feel hidden without feeling alone. Somewhere ahead, you hear a low, distant movement in the brush, heavier than the small creatures you have sensed before. It is not close. It is not sudden. It is simply part of the life moving through this old world. You pause and listen, and after a moment, you see it through a break in the trees, the slow passing shape of a large prehistoric animal, partly obscured by shadow and leaves, moving with a calm heaviness through the undergrowth. It does not notice you, or if it does not care. It is not interested in you. It belongs entirely to this ancient place and to its own quiet path through it. Watching it brings no fear, only a deeper awareness of how gently you have entered a world that has never needed humans to feel complete. The creature disappears into the trees almost as softly as it arrived, and the forest returns to its layered hush. You exhale slowly. Nothing is rushing anymore. Even the largest life here moves with patience, and somewhere in that shaded stillness, your own body begins to move more like the forest itself, slower, softer, less separate from what surrounds it. You continue along the stream until the trees open just slightly into a small clearing where sunlight gathers on a patch of mossy ground. The opening is modest, almost secret, bordered by leaning trunks and low ferns. At its center rests a broad fallen log softened by time, its wood silvered in places and dark with age in others. You sit there for a while, letting the quiet arrange itself around you. From this still place, the forest becomes even more detailed. A drop of water slides from one leaf to another. A faint insect hum rises and falls somewhere unseen. The stream catches the light and releases it again in small glimmers that never last long enough to feel sharp. The whole world seems made of slow appearances and disappearances. That rhythm begins to enter your mind. Thoughts still come, but they no longer arrive in crowded waves. They appear one at a time, soft and manageable, and then they fade like sunlight moving off bark. You do not need to hold them. You do not need to follow them. The forest is teaching you how to let things pass. A breeze moves overhead, too high to feel at first, then descends lightly enough to touch your face with coolness, carrying the scent of leaves and distant water. You close your eyes for a moment and listen. Beneath every small sound is the deeper silence of trunks, roots, stone, and soil simply existing together. It is a silence with weight, a silence that does not feel empty, but complete. You are safe here, The words are barely necessary now. Your body already knows. Rest is not somewhere ahead. Rest is here, in this prehistoric shade, in this hidden clearing, in the soft permission to stop trying so hard to remain mentally awake. When you open your eyes again, the light has shifted slightly, though time feels difficult to measure in this place. The clearing remains quiet, but the quality of the day has changed almost imperceptibly. The brightness filtering through the canopy is warmer now, gentler, less like morning, and more like the beginning of a long, peaceful afternoon. The forest does not announce these changes. It lets them happen slowly enough that your body can follow without effort. You rise from the fallen log and begin walking once more, this time without needing to think about where the stream leads. It is enough to stay near its sound, enough to trust the softness of the path as it winds through roots and shade. The forest around you feels older now, not in years, but in sensation, as if each step carries you deeper into a slower layer of earth itself. The leaves above move less often. The air feels heavier with moisture and calm. Even the distant life of the forest seems to have settled into rest. You walk with your shoulders loose, your breathing even, your mind no longer scanning for what comes next. There is no next in the modern sense. There is only this continuing ancient moment, stretching and deepening as the earth continues its slow breathing. The stream bends ahead into thicker green shade where the trees stand closer together, and beyond them, the world seems to soften into another quiet mystery. You do not need to name it. You only need to follow the calm that leads you there. And so, in the cool shelter of a world before civilization, you drift onward, already feeling the edges of wakefulness begin to blur. The forest deepens without ever becoming dark. It simply grows quieter, greener, more inward, as though the earth is slowly folding around you in layers of leaf, bark, water, and time. You continue beside the stream, now little more than a narrow ribbon of moving silver weaving through roots and moss. The ground here is soft enough to remember every step for a short while, though the forest seems patient enough to take those traces back whenever it wishes. Above you, the canopy thickens in places, allowing sunlight to enter only in scattered pieces, pale and drifting across the forest floor, like thoughts that no longer need to become anything. The air is rich with the scent of damp wood and green growth, and each breath feels heavier in the best possible way, as if the forest itself is asking your body to settle lower, to let go more fully, to become less defended. You listen as you walk, and the world offers you only what is necessary: the faint murmur of water, the occasional creak of an old branch shifting under its own weight, the far-off rustle of unseen life, moving carefully through undergrowth. No sound here tries to dominate the others. Everything belongs to the same calm. The longer you remain in this prehistoric place, the more impossible it becomes to imagine engines, traffic, screens, deadlines, or electric light. Those things feel not just distant, but strangely unreal, as if they belong to another species entirely. Here, there is only the older world, the one built from weather and stone and patient growth. You place your hand against a hanging vine to steady yourself over a patch of roots, and even that small contact feels grounding, a reminder that every living thing around you is simply doing what it was made to do. There is no performance in the forest, no self-consciousness, only existence. You are safe here. Nothing is rushing anymore. The stream carries those truths forward in its quiet, repeating voice, and without trying, you begin to believe them more deeply than before. Soon the stream bends sharply around a rise of dark stone. and enters a slightly lower place where the forest floor opens into a damp hollow. The air cools there, and the light changes again, becoming softer and more diffuse, as if filtered through a deeper layer of leaves. You follow the curve of the water and step into that low place slowly, feeling moss and moist soil beneath your feet. Ferns gather thickly around fallen branches. The trunks of ancient trees widen at their bases, where roots disappear into shadow and rich earth. It feels like entering a hidden chamber, made not by hands, but by centuries of rain, growth, and quiet decay. The stream pools briefly here, before continuing onward, and the water rests among stones in a way that invites stillness. You stop at the edge and look down. Tiny ripples move across the surface from somewhere beneath, perhaps from a spring, perhaps from some unseen creature disturbing the water below. Whatever causes it, the motion is so gentle, it soothes rather than interrupts. You kneel beside the pool and trail your fingers through the cool edge. The sensation is immediate and grounding, drawing your awareness away from thought and back into your body. It reminds you that rest does not begin in the mind. It begins in the body, feeling safe enough to soften. You stay there for a while, your hand half in the water, your breathing slow, your gaze unfocused as the small ripples spread and fade. In this prehistoric hollow, there is no need to understand what time it is. The forest has its own measure. Light shifts, water moves, leaves fall, creatures pass and vanish. That is enough. Somewhere above, beyond the thick green canopy, clouds are likely drifting over the ancient sky. But down here you feel almost entirely enclosed by the earth itself. The feeling is not heavy. It is protective. The world has become smaller around you in the gentlest possible way. And because of that, your thoughts continue to grow quieter. As the earth continues its slow breathing, you rise from the pool and move onward through the hollow, where the stream narrows again and slips between roots like a line of liquid shadow. The path is not visible, but the forest still offers a direction through the arrangement of trunks, openings, and soft patches of ground. You walk slowly enough to notice the smallest details now. The pattern of pale lichen on bark, the smooth, cool surface of a stone half buried in moss, the way a single leaf turns in the faint air before settling. Everything feels slower than it did before, not only around you, but inside you. Your thoughts no longer arrive in full sentences. They come as impressions, fragments, brief drifting shapes that dissolve almost as soon as they form. It is a relief. The mind does not need to stay sharp in a place like this. The forest is doing the remembering for you. Somewhere ahead, the water grows slightly louder, not harshly, but enough to suggest a change in the land. You follow the sound until the trees part around a low rocky shelf where the stream slips gently over stone in a small, clear cascade, no higher than your knees. It falls with a soft, repeating hush into another pool below, and the sound is immediately calming, like a breath taken and released over and over again. You sit on a broad stone nearby and let the water's rhythm settle into your chest. The cascade is simple, but in this quiet, prehistoric world, it feels almost sacred. Not because it is rare, but because it asks so little of you. You do not need to photograph it, describe it, or remember it later. You only need to sit beside it now and let its steady movement smooth the edges of your mind. Only time and earth exist. The phrase returns again, but now it feels less like a sentence and more like the shape of this place itself. You remain beside the little cascade until the sound of falling water begins to feel almost internal, as if it is moving through your own thoughts and washing them into something slower and softer. The air here is cooler than anywhere you have been since leaving the plane, and it settles gently against your skin. Above the rocks, leaves tremble once in a passing breeze, then grow still again. The water does not hurry. It has no need. It simply continues over the same stones it has known for longer than you can imagine, shaping them grain by grain with endless patience. Watching it, you feel your own urgency dissolve a little more. There is nothing to achieve in this ancient forest, nothing to prove before sleep can come. Rest is not a reward waiting at the end of effort. It is already here, hidden in the shade, moving quietly over stone. Eventually, you stand and continue beyond the cascade, where the stream enters thicker growth and the forest floor rises very slightly beneath your feet. The air changes with the elevation, becoming a touch drier, touched by warmth drifting in from beyond the trees. Somewhere ahead, the forest may be beginning to thin. You can feel a subtle openness returning to the light, though the canopy still holds above you for now. The world is preparing to change again, not abruptly, but in the same slow, honest way everything changes here. And as you follow the water deeper into that transition, with your body relaxed and your thoughts nearly weightless, you realize how far you have already traveled from the noise you came from. You are safe here. The prehistoric earth is carrying you gently onward, and sleep is no longer something distant. It is beginning to gather around you like evening long before the sun has even begun to fall. The forest begins to loosen around you so gradually that at first you only notice it in the light. It arrives in wider pieces now, falling through the canopy in larger, warmer shapes, resting on bark and stone with a softness that feels almost golden. The air has changed too. It still carries the cool dampness of water and leaves, but now there is something drier woven through it, something sun-warmed and open, as if the land ahead is slowly exhaling after holding its breath beneath the trees. You continue beside the stream, which has become shallower and brighter as it runs over pale stones and through low roots. The undergrowth thins. The trunks stand farther apart. Ferns give way to grasses in patches where the sunlight reaches the forest floor. It feels as though you are moving toward the edge of something, but there is no tension in that feeling, only curiosity, and even that is calm. The prehistoric world is not asking you to chase discovery. It is simply revealing itself a little at a time, and that pace is kind to your tired mind. You walk through bands of shade and light, listening to the quiet murmur of water and the occasional soft stir of unseen life moving somewhere deeper in the trees. Nothing breaks the peace. Even change arrives gently here. You pass beneath one broad leaning branch and then another, and as the forest opens further, the sky begins to return above you in larger, quieter pieces. Pale blue, a slow white cloud, the soft brightness of a day, not yet ready to fade. You stop for a moment and look upward through the thinning leaves, and something in your chest loosens. The world no longer feels enclosed, but it still feels held. That balance is soothing, protected, but not confined, open, but not exposed. You are safe here. The words move through you as naturally as breath now. Nothing is rushing anymore. The earth is simply shifting from one form of calm to another, carrying you with it as easily as the stream carries light over stone. Soon the trees part enough for you to see beyond them, and what waits there is not another dense forest or a dramatic drop in the land, but a broad meadow-like opening where sunlight lies undisturbed across long grass, scattered stone, and low-flowering plants you do not know the names of. The stream slips out from the shade and enters this open place with quiet confidence, winding through it in a narrow silver line before bending away toward distant shrubs and darker trees. You step from the forest into the clearing slowly, and the warmth of the sun touches your skin with a softness that feels almost like relief. Behind you, the ancient trees remain as a cool green boundary. Ahead of you, the land opens into stillness. There are no signs of human passage, no smoke, no walls, no cut path. The meadow belongs only to light, wind, insects, and the slow passage of life that does not need witness. You begin walking through it, your feet brushing grasses that sway around your ankles and knees, carrying the dry, sweet scent of sunlit stems and warm soil. Small winged insects drift lazily above patches of low blossoms. A lizard-like shape darts over a stone and disappears into shade. Somewhere farther off, hidden by the rise of the land, there comes the low, distant movement of something larger passing through grass. But the sound is so softened by distance, it feels more like part of the landscape than a separate event. You are not alone in this world, but you are not being watched by it either. That may be what makes it feel so deeply restful. You are simply another quiet body moving through prehistoric daylight. The sun above does not demand productivity. It only warms what is beneath it. You let your shoulders drop again. You let your breathing slow even further. In this clearing, held between forest and open land, your mind becomes quieter than it has been all day, and somewhere in that warm, prehistoric stillness, you begin to feel how the day itself is slowing, not ending yet, but deepening into a more restful rhythm. The stream beside you glints in soft flashes where the light catches it. The grasses lean and rise under a mild breeze that seems to travel over the land in long, patient breaths. You follow the curve of the water until it widens briefly into a shallow stony bed where the current slows enough to reveal smooth pebbles and pale sand beneath the surface. The water is so clear that sunlight seems to pass through it without effort. You crouch beside it and watch the current move around small stones, dividing and joining again with no conflict, no urgency, no need to force its way forward. The motion is mesmerizing in the quietest possible way. You do not need to think while looking at it. The stream thinks for no one. It only moves. You dip your hand into the water and feel coolness run over your skin. Then lift your hand into the sun and watch the droplets slide back into the current one by one. It is such a small thing, and yet here, in a world without civilization, it feels enough. The smallest moments are enough. The smallest sounds are enough. The earth does not need spectacle to soothe you. It only needs honesty. A little breeze passes through the clearing, bringing with it the scent of grass, warm stone, and distant trees. The breeze touches your face and moves on. You close your eyes and let it go. Nothing is rushing anymore. You are safe here. Only time and earth exist. The repetition is not boring. It is comforting, like a hand resting gently where your thoughts once felt too loud. The clearing around you glows with late softness, and your body begins to feel less like something carrying you through the day, and more like something the day itself is slowly putting to rest. When you rise again, the sun has shifted slightly lower, though the light remains broad and peaceful. You continue across the clearing at an unhurried pace, following where the stream leads toward a low rise covered in pale grasses and scattered ancient shrubs. As you climb it slowly, the land behind you opens into a wider view. The edge of the forest, the silver thread of water, the quiet meadow holding all its warmth beneath the sky. Beyond that, farther still, the plains stretch in hazy gold toward distant blue-gray hills, softened by atmosphere and time. The sight is so wide and calm that you stop without meaning to. You simply stand there and let the scale of prehistoric Earth settle into you. No buildings interrupt the horizon. No roads divide the land. The whole world feels unfinished in the most beautiful way, as if it is still becoming itself without needing to hurry. You feel very small standing there, but not in a lonely way, in a peaceful way, in a relieving way, small enough to stop carrying so much, small enough to rest. The breeze is cooler at the top of the rise, touched by water below and open land beyond. It moves through your hair and clothing with no force at all, and you breathe it in slowly. Somewhere overhead, a bird glides across the ancient sky and disappears into distance. You watch until it is gone. Then even that movement becomes part of the stillness again. The earth is preparing for evening now, though gently, almost invisibly. Light is softening. Shadows are lengthening. The world is beginning to exhale into rest, and you are following it without resistance. And as the prehistoric land stretches around you in silence, held between warmth and the first hint of dusk, you continue onward, carried deeper into the slow, peaceful descent toward sleep. The warmth of the day lingers over the land, like a soft hand that has no intention of holding too tightly. You walk down from the low rise at an easy pace, and the grasses around you catch the changing light in muted gold and pale green, each blade moving gently as if the whole plain has begun to breathe more slowly. The stream continues beside you for a while, and then bends away into reeds and shrubs, leaving you in a wider openness where the earth feels dry again beneath your feet. Behind you, the forest edge has become darker and cooler, holding the memory of shade. Ahead of you, the plains open beneath a sky that has shifted almost imperceptibly from bright blue into something softer, warmer, touched by the first long signs of evening. Nothing dramatic happens. There is no sudden sunset, no loud chorus of life announcing the change. The earth simply begins to release the day. That release moves through you too. Your body feels looser now than when you first stepped into this prehistoric world. Your thoughts are slower, farther apart, less interested in gathering. Even the horizon seems less like a destination and more like a resting line where the day can lean its tired brightness before letting it go. You walk with no need to arrive anywhere. That may be the most healing part of all this. To move without pressure, to exist without the constant feeling that you are late for something invisible. The land around you glows quietly, and every few moments, a warm breeze passes over the plain, carrying the scent of dry grass, warm stone, and something faintly sweet from low-flowering plants hidden among the stems. You breathe it in and feel your shoulders lower another little bit. Nothing is rushing anymore. The phrase returns not as instruction, but as truth. It is in the sky. It is in the grass. It is in the way the light now lingers on the edges of things before slipping away. You are safe here, walking through the slow unwinding of an ancient afternoon. As the earth continues its slow breathing, the plain begins to change in small, beautiful ways that only a quiet mind can fully notice. Shadows stretch longer now from stones and shrubs, no longer resting close beneath them, but reaching outward in soft blue-gray shapes across the ground. The sun, though still above the horizon, has lost its midday sharpness. Its light is gentler now, more forgiving, spreading over the prehistoric land in a warm haze that makes everything appear slightly dreamlike. You pass a cluster of dark rocks, half buried in the grass, and pause beside them, drawn by their heat still held from the day. When you rest your hand against one, it feels sun-warmed on the surface, but cool at its deeper edges, as though it is carrying both day and night at once. That balance feels strangely comforting. You sit there for a while on the earth, beside the stone, letting the warmth soak quietly into your side while the evening air brushes cooler against your face. It is the kind of contrast that makes the body soften without even trying. Somewhere far away, a large animal moves across the plain, visible only as a slow, dark shape against pale grass. It does not disturb the calm. If anything, its distance makes the world feel larger and more peaceful. You are not alone in this ancient place, but everything around you seems to understand the value of silence. The creature continues on and fades into the horizon haze. You remain seated, watching the light gather low over the land. And for a while there is nothing to think about at all. That absence does not feel empty. It feels like relief. The kind of relief that comes when the mind finally realizes it is no longer being chased by the day. Only time and earth exist. The words rise through you once more, and this time they feel almost like a lullaby carried by warm air over grass. Eventually you stand again and continue walking, though your pace is even slower now, shaped by the evening itself. The plain ahead rolls gently downward into a broad open basin where the grasses are shorter and the earth shows through in soft, dusty patches. A few solitary trees stand at wide distances from one another, their silhouettes darkening against the warm sky, each one still and patient, as if waiting for night with complete trust. You move toward them, not out of need, but because the eye naturally follows anything that offers shelter as light begins to fade. The sky above is changing more clearly now. The blue has thinned into pale amber near the horizon and faint silver higher up, while a few long clouds drift in stretched quiet lines that seem almost too soft to be real. It is beautiful, but not in a way that excites the mind. It soothes it. It tells your body that the world is doing what it has always done, warming, cooling, brightening, dimming, breathing in, breathing out. Nothing about this transition feels uncertain. Nothing about it asks you to stay alert. If anything, the whole prehistoric earth seems to be demonstrating how to let go. The grass brushes lightly against your legs as you walk, and each touch feels repetitive and calming. Step, breath, breeze, light. Step, breath, breeze, light. Your thoughts follow that rhythm until they begin to dissolve into it. You are safe here. There are no messages waiting in the dark, no unfinished tasks hidden beyond the horizon. Night in this world is not an interruption. It is a continuation of peace. And because the earth itself is easing toward rest, your own mind begins to trust that it can do the same. The basin ahead grows warmer in color as the sun lowers, and you feel yourself drifting deeper into the kind of tiredness that is not heavy or unpleasant, but honest and welcome. At the center of the basin, near one of the solitary trees, you find a broad patch of smooth earth, scattered with pale stones and softened by short grass. It feels like a place where the land itself has decided to be still. You walk to the tree and stand beneath its sparse branches, looking out over the plain as evening gathers more fully now. The sun is lower, though still visible, and its light reaches across the land in long golden bands that make every small rise and hollow seem tender. The air has cooled enough to feel comforting on your skin, while the earth beneath your feet still holds the last warmth of day. You lower yourself to the ground and sit with your back resting lightly against the tree's trunk. From here, the whole prehistoric landscape appears quieter than ever. The forest edge in the distance is now a dark green line. The stream is no longer visible, but you know it is there somewhere, continuing its soft path through reeds and stone. The hills beyond the plain have become blue shadows. Everything is settling Everything is becoming gentler. You let your head tilt back slightly and look upward through the branches into the evening sky, where the first faint coolness of night is beginning to gather behind the warmth of the sinking sun. Nothing is rushing anymore. The words move through you one more time, slower than before, as if they too are growing sleepy. You are safe here. You do not need to hold the day together. The earth is already letting it go, and it is showing you how. So you remain beneath that ancient tree, still and unguarded, while the last warm breath of prehistoric afternoon drifts across the plain and carries you softly toward the first true hush of evening. Evening settles not as an event, but as a deepening softness across everything you can see. From your place beneath the solitary tree, the land seems to exhale in long, slow waves, the grasses losing their brightness and becoming quieter in color, the distant hills fading further into blue-gray shadow, the open sky widening into a gentler and more thoughtful kind of light. The sun is still present, but only just, hanging low enough now that its warmth reaches the earth, more by memory than by force. You remain seated against the trunk, feeling the roughness of bark at your back and the cooling ground beneath you. The contrast is comforting. Above you, the branches hold still for long moments, at a time before moving slightly in the breeze. Their leaves whispering so softly, they seem almost imagined. This is not the restless hour of human evenings, full of return and preparation and unfinished motion. This is a prehistoric evening, honest and gradual, with no artificial brightness to push back against it. Night is not something resisted here. It is simply welcomed. You breathe in the air and notice how it has changed. The scent of warm grass remains, but beneath it now there is a cooler layer of earth, stone, and distant water. The world is preparing to rest, and your body, perhaps for the first time in a long while, feels willing to follow without argument. There is no need to stay mentally alert. The day has already done enough. The light has already done enough. You have walked through plains and trees and stream beds and shade, and now the earth is offering you stillness, as if it has been waiting all along for you to become quiet enough to receive it. You are safe here. Nothing is rushing anymore. The words feel less like thoughts now and more like the atmosphere itself, woven into bark, dust, and cooling air. You let your eyes rest on the horizon, where the last warmth of day gathers in pale amber bands. And even looking feels easier now, softer, less effortful than before. After a while, you rise slowly from the base of the tree and begin to walk again, not because you need movement, but because the evening seems to invite one last, gentle wandering before full night arrives. The basin around you has become quieter with the fading light. The grasses no longer shimmer. They sway in muted tones of gray-green and gold, and the scattered stones among them hold a last faint glow before turning fully cool. You walk without direction at first, simply tracing the shape of the land with slow steps, your feet pressing softly into earth that still remembers the warmth of the day. Every few moments, a breeze moves across the plain, cooler now, carrying with it the scent of dust and open distance. It touches your skin and passes on. Nothing clings, nothing demands. The prehistoric world seems to understand something the modern world often forgets, that not every moment needs to be filled. Some moments are meant only to be rested inside. That understanding moves through you as naturally as breath. The sky above is now a vast blend of pale gold, fading blue, and the earliest silver gray of approaching dusk. No human light interrupts it. No sound from civilization rises into it. It remains whole and undivided, and because of that, your mind begins to feel less fragmented too. The pieces of your day no longer tug at one another. They no longer compete for attention. They are becoming still, one by one, like birds settling into hidden branches before dark. In the distance, you notice the slow outline of another tree, broader and lower than the one you left behind, standing near a slight depression in the land where cooler air seems to gather. You walk toward it with no hurry at all, drawn not by necessity, but by the quiet feeling that the earth is continuing to lead you somewhere softer. As the earth continues its slow breathing, you reach the shallow depression and find that it cradles a small stretch of low grass and smooth bare soil sheltered from the breeze. The larger tree stands at its edge, its roots exposed in places where the ground has gently worn away over time. Beneath its branches, the air feels slightly warmer, slightly more still, and the whole place carries the intimate quiet of somewhere meant for resting. You step down into the hollow and immediately feel the difference. The plain above remains open and calm, but here the land holds you a little more closely. It is enough to make your body relax further without your permission. You lower yourself onto the ground near the roots and lean back with your hands resting in the cool grass beside you. The earth beneath is firm, but not harsh. It feels dependable, ancient, unbothered by anything except continuing to exist. You look upward through the lower branches, and the sky appears framed now in darker leaves and slow-moving strips of fading color. Somewhere very far away, a low animal call drifts across the plain and disappears into distance before it can become sharp. It does not disturb the peace. It only reminds you that life continues softly all around you, even as the world prepares for sleep. You close your eyes for a few breaths and listen. Wind moving lightly through grass, leaves touching leaves, the faintest sound of your own breath. Beneath all of it, the deeper silence of land cooling after sunlight. That silence has weight to it. It settles into your chest, into your shoulders, into the small hidden places inside you that have stayed tense for too long. Only time and earth exist. The phrase comes back now, as if it has always lived in the ground beneath you, waiting for your body to become still enough to hear it clearly. When you open your eyes again, the sun has nearly gone, leaving behind only a soft, lingering brightness along the far horizon. The world has entered that rare and beautiful moment when shapes are still visible, but no longer insist on their details. The grasses become textures rather than separate blades. The stones become pale resting forms. The distant hills dissolve into one long darkened line. Everything is simplifying itself for the night. That simplification soothes you more than you realize. The mind grows tired from too much detail, too much choice, too much constant interpretation. But here, as evening gives way to the first true hush of prehistoric night, the world asks less and less of your attention. It offers broad forms, quiet outlines, soft temperatures, and room to let go. You remain beneath the tree, breathing slowly, feeling the earth cool beneath you, and the air settle around you like a thin, invisible blanket. You are safe here. The phrase barely needs words now. Your body knows. Your thoughts are no longer forming in clear edges. They drift and soften and vanish before they fully arrive. Above the branches, one faint star begins to appear in the deepening sky, small and steady, followed by another just beyond it. The first lights of ancient night are returning, untouched by cities, untouched by noise, untouched by all the things that usually keep the mind awake. And as darkness continues to gather, with such gentleness that it feels almost merciful, you let yourself sink a little deeper into the hollow, a little deeper into the tree's shelter, a little deeper into the old quiet of a world that has been resting for millions of years. Night arrives fully, the way ancient things often do, without announcement, without spectacle, without asking permission from anything at all. One moment, the land still carries the memory of day, and the next it has become a softer, deeper version of itself, held beneath a darkening sky that seems wider now than it ever did in sunlight. You remain in the shallow hollow beneath the tree, your body still against the cooling ground, your breath moving slowly enough to almost match the silence around you. The grasses at the edge of the hollow are no longer green or gold. They are shapes now, gentle and low, moving only when the breeze touches them. The tree above you has become a dark shelter of branch and leaf, and beyond it, the plain stretches outward into quiet shadow, its distances hidden but not frightening. Nothing in this prehistoric night feels hostile. There are no flashing lights, no distant engines, no human noise pressing itself into the dark. There is only the honest arrival of night over open land. And because of that, the darkness feels less like absence and more like relief. The earth is no longer asking to be looked at. It is asking to be felt. The air has cooled enough now that it rests lightly over your skin, while the ground beneath you still holds a trace of the day's warmth, enough to make the body feel protected from both above and below. You breathe in and notice the scent of dust, dry grass, tree bark, and cooling soil. It is a quiet scent, low and grounding, as if the planet itself is settling into sleep. Somewhere in the far distance, too far to imagine clearly, there is the faint sound of something moving through grass. It comes and goes like a dream you do not need to follow. You are safe here. Nothing is rushing anymore. The words do not need repetition now, but they remain inside the night like a hidden rhythm, the same rhythm that moves through your breath, through the breeze, through the slow turning of earth itself. As the earth continues its slow breathing, your eyes adjust to the prehistoric dark until you can see more than you first thought possible. The outline of the basin returns. The low rise you descended earlier is visible again as a softer shadow against the horizon. The solitary tree you left behind stands farther out on the plain, like a quiet memory of evening. Above all of it, the sky has become immense. More stars are appearing now, one after another, not suddenly, but patiently, until the darkness overhead begins to fill with pale ancient light. They do not glitter sharply the way they do in modern places, full of contrast and interruption. Here they seem softer, steadier, as though the night itself is holding them in place. You tilt your head back slightly and let your gaze rest among them. It is impossible to look at a sky like this and feel that your worries are as urgent as they seemed before. Under these stars, everything human becomes smaller, not meaningless, just smaller, more manageable, less worthy of carrying so tightly. The prehistoric world does not erase your life. It simply reminds you that your mind was never meant to stay clenched around every thought all at once. There is too much sky for that, too much silence, too much ancient calm. You let your jaw soften. You let your hands rest open against the ground. You let your eyes half close and then open again, not from effort, but from the natural heaviness that comes when the body begins to trust the dark. Somewhere beyond the basin, hidden in the long grasses or near the edge of the distant trees, a soft animal call rises once and fades into the night air. It is not loud. It does not break the peace. It belongs to the same world as the stars, the same world as the tree roots beneath your back, the same world as your own slowing breath. Only time and earth exist. The phrase returns one more time, but now it feels so true that it barely needs language at all. Eventually you shift and sit up a little more, not fully, just enough to look farther across the land from your sheltered place in the hollow. The darkness has made everything simpler. During the day, the world offered texture and color and shape and distance. At night, it offers only what matters most: form, space, temperature, rhythm. That simplification feels deeply kind to a tired mind. There is less to process, less to hold, less to stay awake for. The tree above you creaks once very softly as the breeze passes through it, and then stillness returns. You notice how every sound in this night arrives with room around it. Nothing overlaps in a harsh way. Nothing competes. There is enough silence between sounds for your body to remain calm. That may be why sleep feels closer now than ever before. Not because you are forcing it, but because the world around you has stopped stimulating every part of your awareness. The night is reducing things gently, layer by layer. The plane becomes shadow. The shadow becomes calm. The calm becomes sleep. You pull your knees in slightly and rest your arms around them for a while, feeling the comfort of your own body shape in the cool air. It is enough. You do not need more than this. A tree, a hollow in the land, ancient grass, a sky untouched by civilization. Sometimes peace is very simple when nothing is trying to sell itself to your attention. A faint current of cooler air moves across the hollow and touches your face. You close your eyes for a few breaths and listen again. Wind, grass, distance, your own slow breathing. The night has become a kind of shelter now, and your mind is beginning to understand that it does not need to stay on guard inside it. When you open your eyes once more, the stars seem even more numerous, though perhaps it is only that your awareness has become quieter and more able to receive them. The sky above prehistoric Earth is no longer just a ceiling of darkness. It is a vast, slow presence stretching over everything without urgency. Beneath it, the land feels even more still than before. The hidden movements of distant life have quieted. The breeze has softened. Even the tree above you seems to have settled into sleep. You lower yourself back against the ground, this time more fully, letting your shoulders sink into the grass and your head rest near the roots. From here, the sky fills your view between the branches, and the stars seem to drift without moving. It is a beautiful kind of stillness, one that asks nothing except surrender. You are safe here. The phrase moves through you again, almost too softly to notice. Nothing is rushing anymore. There is nowhere to be except here beneath this ancient sky, in this prehistoric night that has never heard a ringtone, never seen a window lit by electric blue, never known the restless pulse of human wakefulness. There is only darkness, starlight, cool air, and the great slow patience of Earth. Your thoughts now are hardly thoughts at all. They are only impressions, half-formed and dissolving, like faint shapes underwater. Sleep is no longer approaching from a distance. It is already near, already woven into the grass, the roots, the stars, the dark. And somewhere in that endless, humanless quiet, you begin to drift even more deeply into the night. The night grows deeper, but not heavier. It simply becomes more complete. Lying there beneath the shelter of the tree, you feel the prehistoric world settle into one of its oldest and most honest forms. Dark land beneath a patient sky, life moving only when it must, and long stretches of silence holding everything together. The hollow around you has become a quiet bowl of shadow, and the plain beyond it is almost impossible to separate from the darkness itself. Only a few pale stones and faint strips of grass still catch enough starlight to be seen. The rest has softened into suggestion. That softness reaches into your mind as well. Thoughts that once arrived clearly now come only as dim impressions, almost dreamlike, before sleep has even fully begun. The coolness of the air no longer feels like a change you need to notice. It has become part of the atmosphere of rest. The ground beneath you is steady, ancient, and unbothered. The tree roots near your shoulder feel like something quietly protective, as though the earth has arranged them there, not to hold you in place, but to remind you that you are supported even now, even in the dark. Somewhere far off, a faint sound rises across the prehistoric plain, too soft to identify, perhaps a low call, perhaps movement through grass, perhaps only wind touching a distant shape. Whatever it is, it fades before it can become important. That is the nature of this world at night. Nothing lingers in a way that disturbs you. Everything passes through and then returns to silence. You are safe here. Only time and earth exist. The words drift through you with less and less form until they feel more like the pulse of the night itself. There is no need to hold on to wakefulness now. The darkness is not taking anything from you. It is giving something back. Space, slowness, relief. As the earth continues its slow breathing, the sounds around you become even more subtle, and because of that, somehow more soothing. A blade of grass brushes another in the breeze. A leaf shifts overhead and then becomes still. Somewhere nearby, perhaps along the edge of the hollow, a small nocturnal creature moves through the undergrowth with such gentleness that the sound barely reaches you at all. It pauses, then continues, then disappears completely into the soft, layered quiet. None of it feels urgent. None of it pulls you away from rest. Instead, the sounds arrive like tiny reminders that life continues peacefully around you, even while your own awareness begins to drift. The prehistoric world does not stop at night. It simply lowers its voice. That lowering is deeply calming. In the modern world, darkness often arrives with artificial brightness, noise, movement, and a strange pressure to remain stimulated, even when the body is tired. But here, millions of years before civilization, night means permission. Permission to become slower, permission to stop observing so closely, permission to let the mind release its grip. You let your hands rest more heavily against the earth now. You let your jaw unclench completely. You let your eyes remain closed for longer stretches before opening only halfway to the stars. Above you, the sky remains vast and unhurried. The stars seem steadier now, as if the longer you stay awake beneath them, the more they begin to resemble fixed points inside your own breathing. Inhale, silence. Exhale, distance. Inhale, silence. Exhale, distance. The rhythm is enough. It is more than enough. It is ancient and simple and kind. Nothing is rushing anymore. Even your thoughts seem too sleepy to fully return. At some point, without really deciding to, you roll gently onto one side, so the hollow and the darkened plain are no longer directly in front of you. Instead, your view becomes smaller and more intimate. A patch of grass near your face, the low dark shape of a root, a pale stone reflecting faint skylight, and the slow shifting shadow of a branch above. This reduced world feels especially peaceful. The farther your awareness narrows, the easier it becomes to rest inside it. You do not need the whole landscape now. You do not need the horizon, the stars, the distance, or the shape of the basin. Those things are still there, holding the night in their quiet way. But your body is beginning to prefer something closer, simpler, smaller. The immediate texture of the earth, the cool scent of soil and dry stems, the nearness of bark and grass. Sleep often comes this way, not all at once, but by slowly reducing the amount of world you need to stay aware of. The prehistoric night understands that. It offers itself in layers. First the sky, then the land, then the tree, then the ground, then only breath. You remain still in that smaller world and listen to your breathing as it passes in and out of you. It sounds softer now, less like effort, and more like part of the night's natural movement. You are safe here. The phrase is almost gone as language, because your body no longer needs reminding. It already believes it. A faint, cool current of air moves over the grass near your face, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant open land. It passes and leaves behind an even deeper quiet than before. There is something deeply merciful about a world that knows how to become quieter without disappearing, and somewhere in that quiet reduction, the edge between waking and sleeping begins to blur. Not suddenly, not in a dramatic slipping away, more like a soft unfastening of the mind from the need to keep observing every detail. You are still aware of the tree, the ground, the stars beyond the branches, but they no longer feel separate from one another. They are becoming one atmosphere, one slow surrounding presence in which your body is already half resting. The night seems warmer now, though perhaps it is only that your muscles have relaxed enough to stop noticing the difference. A final distant sound moves across the plain and fades. Then there is only the smallest motion of leaves and the endless quiet underneath them. Only time and earth exist. Even that phrase now feels too large, too structured, too awake. What remains is simpler. Dark, breath, ground, safety, rest. The prehistoric world has become less like a place you are visiting and more like something you are dissolving into. The earth beneath you no longer feels outside your body. It feels like an extension of your own stillness. The air above you no longer feels separate either. It rises and falls with your breathing. The tree no longer feels like shelter. It simply is part of the same calm that now surrounds everything. And as the stars continue their silent watch over a world without roads, without walls, without voices, your mind drifts further from the shape of thought itself, carried gently into the deep and ancient quiet where sleep has been waiting all along. The night is so still now that it no longer feels like a time of day. It feels like a place, a vast ancient place made of darkness, soft air, and patient earth, where nothing asks you to remain fully awake. You rest within it, beneath the tree, your body turned gently toward the ground, your awareness moving in and out, like a tide that no longer needs to reach very far. The hollow around you has almost disappeared into the surrounding plain, and the plain itself has become part of the greater quiet, held beneath a sky that continues to deepen with stars. Even without lifting your head, you can sense how immense that sky remains above the branches. Its presence is not sharp. It is soft and endless, like something too old to ever become urgent. The ground near your face smells faintly of dust, root, bark, and dry grass cooled by the long prehistoric night. It is a low, steady scent, the kind that asks the body to let go rather than stay alert. Somewhere in the darkness, perhaps beyond the basin or farther out near the open plain, a breeze passes through the grasses and disappears. You hear it only briefly, a whisper moving across distance, and then the stillness returns, fuller than before. That is what this ancient world keeps doing for you. It lets small sounds come and go, but it always returns you to silence. It always brings you back to rest. Your body has become heavy now, in the most peaceful way, not burdened, not trapped, just gently claimed by gravity and the comfort of stillness. There is no reason to move, no reason to think in full shape, no reason to keep one part of yourself braced against what might come next. Nothing is rushing anymore. Even the night itself seems content to remain exactly as it is for as long as you need it. You are safe here. The thought appears only faintly now, like the memory of a voice you no longer need, because the world itself has already said it enough. As the earth continues its slow breathing, your attention drifts upward again, not with effort, but with the soft pull of the stars beyond the branches. You do not fully raise your head. You only let your eyes open a little wider and settle into the dark spaces between leaves, where the sky reveals itself in quiet fragments. What you see there is not a pattern your waking mind needs to solve. It is only depth, ancient depth, more stars than any modern night could offer, scattered across the sky with no interruption from human light. Some are bright enough to hold your gaze for a moment. Others remain faint and distant, barely there, like thoughts too soft to fully form. Looking at them does not make you feel more awake. It makes you feel less separate. Under a sky this old, your worries cannot remain the size they once seemed. They become smaller, not because they are unreal, but because the stars are reminding you of scale, of silence, of how much of existence happens without urgency or noise. You do not need to hold everything tonight. The sky is already holding more than enough. The branches above you sway once, barely moving, and then settle again into stillness. One star disappears behind a leaf. Another appears in its place. Nothing dramatic changes, yet everything keeps shifting in small, slow ways. That is enough to keep the night alive without disturbing your rest. You let your eyes soften until the stars blur slightly, and in that blur, they become even more soothing. No longer points, but a gentle field of pale light floating above prehistoric Earth. Only time and Earth exist. Even now the phrase returns, but it feels dreamlike, as though it belongs to the stars rather than to language. You breathe in. You breathe out. The sky remains. The earth remains. You do not need to do anything more than that. Somewhere in that half-drifting awareness, memory begins to lose its sharpness. Not memory of your life exactly, but memory of the day, of the walking, of the stream and forest and plain. They are still there in you, but only as soft impressions now, as if you have already started dreaming them back into the earth. The trees you passed earlier no longer feel like separate places. The meadow, the hollow, the rise, the water, the stones, the warm afternoon, the cool evening, they all begin to blend into one long prehistoric feeling rather than a sequence of moments. That blending is deeply restful. The mind tires itself, trying to keep everything in order, trying to remember what came before and what should come next. But the ancient world does not live that way. It lives in continuance, in flow, in slow returning. You begin to follow it. The branch above your shoulder becomes just another dark line in the night. The grass against your arm becomes texture without story. The cool air becomes part of your skin. You are no longer observing the world from a distance. You are resting inside it. The difference matters. In the modern world, the mind often stands apart from everything, analyzing, anticipating, preparing. But here, in this prehistoric silence, there is nothing to prepare for. The earth is not asking you to interpret it. It is simply allowing you to belong to it for a while. That belonging feels almost impossibly gentle. You are safe here. There are no sudden lights, no interruptions, no pressure to return to wakefulness. Only this dark old sky, this tree, this grass, this breathing body slowly surrendering to rest. The more you allow yourself to feel that, the less effort consciousness seems worth. Sleep is not far away now. It is not even approaching. It is already touching the edges of your awareness and asking only that you stop resisting what is naturally happening. When your eyes close again, they stay closed longer this time. The stars remain behind your eyelids as soft, pale after-images, and even those begin to fade into darkness that feels warm rather than empty. You no longer need visual detail. The night has given you enough. Now it offers something simpler, less light, less thought, less distinction between self and place. The sounds around you have thinned to almost nothing. Perhaps the breeze has quieted. Perhaps you are simply too close to sleep to follow it. Either way, the silence has deepened into something full and continuous. A silence that does not feel like the absence of life, but the presence of peace. Your body is very still now. Your breath is easy. Your mind is almost no longer a mind in the active sense. It is more like a soft, drifting field where shapes rise and dissolve without consequence. Nothing is rushing anymore. The words are no longer needed at all. They have become true enough to disappear. Beneath the tree, beneath the stars, beneath the great slow night of prehistoric Earth, you are no longer trying to stay here. You are simply here. And that is why sleep can come so gently now, not as an interruption, not as something to force, but as the natural continuation of this long, ancient quiet. The world has been becoming softer for hours. So have you. And now, with the stars holding their patient places above, and the earth cradling your body below, you drift a little deeper still into the humanless darkness where thought loosens, time thins, and rest begins to take you fully. There is almost no difference now between the darkness around you and the darkness behind your closed eyes. Both feel soft. Both feel endless. Both feel kind. You remain beneath the tree in that shallow cradle of land. But even the sense of location is beginning to loosen. The hollow, the plain, the stars, the branches, the grass, they are all still present. But they no longer arrive as separate things that require your attention. They exist more like one slow, surrounding presence, one ancient atmosphere that has gently absorbed the sharper edges of awareness. The night air rests against your skin without asking to be noticed. The earth beneath you supports every part of your body with the same patient steadiness it has offered since the beginning of this long drift through prehistoric time. Somewhere far beyond your awareness, perhaps the plain continues under starlight. Perhaps some quiet creature moves through the grass. Perhaps the breeze crosses the land and disappears. But none of it asks you to follow. The world is continuing without needing witness. That truth is one of the most restful things of all. You do not need to stay awake to keep anything in motion. The earth is already moving in its own old, dependable way. It has always known how to carry the night. It has always known how to hold sleeping things. Your breathing has become very slow now, very easy, almost too gentle to notice, unless you are listening for it. But even that begins to feel less like your own effort and more like part of the larger rhythm around you. Inhale, earth, exhale, night. Inhale, earth, exhale, night. The pattern is so simple that thought has little reason to remain. You are safe here. Even that idea no longer needs words. It has become sensation, weight in the limbs, softness in the jaw, warmth inside stillness. Nothing is rushing anymore. And because nothing is rushing, the mind has almost nothing left to hold on to. As the earth continues its slow breathing, your awareness drifts in a way that feels less like thinking and more like floating just beneath the surface of sleep. Shapes come and go without staying long enough to become clear. A memory of water over stone, the feeling of warm sunlight on the plain, the cool shelter of the forest, the wide sky before evening. But none of these return as scenes, or stories. They arrive only as textures, temperatures, fragments of prehistoric calm passing gently through the edges of your mind. It is as if the whole journey through this ancient world is dissolving into atmosphere, and you are dissolving with it. There is no need to remember it clearly. There is no need to organize it. Sleep does not ask for order. It asks only for surrender. And the prehistoric night, in all its depth and quiet, has been teaching you that surrender from the very beginning. You no longer need to look at the stars to feel them above you. You no longer need to hear the breeze to know the open land still lies beyond the tree. The world remains even when you are not actively attending to it. That realization is deeply calming. The mind becomes exhausted when it believes it must keep watch over everything. But nothing here requires guarding. The darkness is not danger. It is a blanket. The silence is not emptiness. It is relief. The stillness is not loneliness. It is release. You let these truths move through you without trying to hold them. They settle where they need to settle. The tree remains above. The roots remain below. The grass remains at the edge of your awareness. Only time and earth exist. And even time now feels thinner, less like movement and more like suspension, as if the whole prehistoric night has paused just long enough for you to disappear gently into it. At some point, the boundary between body and ground begins to soften in a way that is almost impossible to describe. You still know where you are, and yet you also do not. Your shoulder rests against earth, your hand against grass, your head near roots. But these no longer feel like separate contacts. They feel continuous, as if the land has slowly accepted your weight and made it part of itself. That feeling is not strange. It is deeply peaceful. The body, when it feels safe enough, often wants exactly this: to stop bracing, to stop defining every edge, to stop carrying itself as though it must remain ready. Here, in a world without roads, walls, voices, or electric light, your body is finally learning that it can release its shape into stillness. The night does not take advantage of softness, it protects it. That may be why your thoughts are now so faint. They hardly qualify as thoughts at all. They rise like distant mist and vanish before taking form. Even language is beginning to feel unnecessary. The prehistoric earth is speaking to you now, in older ways, in cool air, in weight, in dark, in the slow rhythm of breath. A very distant sound may move across the plain once, so soft it might be imagined, and then it is gone. The silence that follows is even gentler. You are safe here. The message continues without words. The body knows. The body believes. There is nowhere to be except here in this near sleep, this soft unfastening, this ancient dark that asks so little and gives so much in return. Nothing is rushing anymore. Not the stars, not the land, not the hidden life of the night, not you. And somewhere in that almost dreaming state, even the idea of prehistoric time begins to fade into something larger and more peaceful than any specific age or place. It is no longer only that you are resting millions of years before civilization. It is that you are resting before noise, before pressure, before the constant mental reaching that so often keeps sleep just out of reach. This world has no need to pull you back into yourself. It keeps inviting you gently out of the tight little circle of thought and into something wider, slower, and more forgiving. The darkness around you becomes softer still. Your breath becomes quieter still. The tree, the stars, the hollow, the plain, the whole ancient earth around you now feel less like surroundings and more like one long exhale. You are inside that exhale. You are being carried by it. There is nothing left to figure out tonight. Nothing left to keep upright. Nothing left to solve before rest is allowed. Sleep is no longer approaching. It is already here in pieces, gathering at the edges of every sensation, every fading thought, every slow breath. The mind loosens, the body sinks, the night holds, and as the great old silence of prehistoric Earth continues around you without effort, without interruption, without end, you drift further inward, further downward, further into the calm where consciousness softens, detail disappears, and the first true depth of sleep begins to open. There is almost nothing left to hold on to now. The night has become so complete, so gentle that even the idea of being awake feels distant and unnecessary. You remain where you are beneath the tree, but the sense of position has faded into something softer, something less defined. The ground, the air, the quiet shape of your body, they all seem to rest within the same slow, ancient stillness. You are no longer aware of each separate contact with the earth. You are aware only of being supported, of being held in a way that asks nothing in return. The prehistoric world continues around you, but it no longer arrives in pieces. It is one continuous calm. The sky above, filled with stars, exists whether you look at it or not. The plain stretches outward, whether you imagine it or not. The distant life of the night moves in its own quiet rhythms, without needing your attention. And because of that, your mind no longer feels responsible for anything. That release is complete. It is deep. It is quiet. Your breathing is slow enough now that it feels like part of the land itself, rising and falling with the same patient rhythm as the breeze that once crossed the grasses. Even that breeze has grown faint. Or perhaps you are simply too close to sleep to notice it. The silence has thickened into something soft and continuous, like a blanket that has settled over everything. You are safe here. The words do not form clearly anymore, but their meaning remains, held inside your body as a steady calm. Nothing is rushing anymore. There is nowhere left to go. The journey through this ancient earth has already carried you exactly where you needed to be. As the earth continues its slow breathing, the last small movements of thought drift through you and dissolve before they can become clear. There is no effort in letting them go. They are too light now to stay. They rise like faint shadows and fade into the same darkness that surrounds everything. You are not trying to sleep. You are already slipping into it, guided not by intention, but by the quiet permission of the world itself. The tree above you no longer feels like a separate shape. It is part of the darkness. The roots beneath you no longer feel like something you are resting on. They are part of the same steady ground that holds your body without question. Even your sense of time has softened until it is almost gone. There is no earlier, no later, no sequence to follow. There is only this continuous gentle now, stretching without edges. In this state, the prehistoric world is no longer something you are observing. It is something you are dissolving into. The boundary between you and the land has grown so thin it barely exists at all. Your body rests, but it also seems to spread, to blend with the cool earth, the quiet air, the soft darkness. This is not something you need to understand. It is something your body has been waiting for, perhaps for longer than you realize. A return to simplicity, a return to stillness, a return to a place where nothing needs to be held together by effort. Only time and earth exist, and even those words feel too defined now, too shaped for a mind that is letting go of shape itself. The sounds of the night, if they still exist around you, no longer reach you in any clear way. They have become part of the same quiet field as everything else, indistinguishable from the silence that holds them. Your breathing is slow, even, and effortless. You do not notice each inhale and exhale as separate events anymore. They blend together into a soft, continuous rhythm that carries you deeper, without interruption. Your muscles are fully relaxed. Your face is soft. Your hands rest without tension. There is no need to move. There is no need to adjust. The body has found its place in the ancient world and no longer resists it. The darkness behind your closed eyes feels the same as the darkness outside them, and because of that, there is no longer a strong reason to open them again. Sleep is no longer something that might happen. It is happening. It is unfolding gently, layer by layer, like the night itself. The last traces of clear awareness begin to thin, not disappearing all at once, but stretching, fading, becoming lighter and more distant. You are safe here. Even that sense is no longer a thought. It is simply the absence of fear, the absence of tension, the absence of anything that would keep you awake. Nothing is rushing anymore. Not your mind, not your body, not the world. Everything has settled into the same slow quiet, and somewhere in that deepening stillness, even the feeling of being separate from sleep begins to dissolve. There is no clear moment where you cross from wakefulness into dreaming. There is only a gradual softening, a quiet fading, a gentle slipping beneath the surface of awareness into something deeper and more peaceful than thought. The prehistoric earth remains, but you are no longer experiencing it in the same way. It becomes part of the background of sleep, part of the calm that holds you as consciousness loosens its final grip. The tree, the stars, the hollow, the plain, they are all still there, but they no longer need to be seen or felt or understood. They have already done their work. They have guided you here, and now they allow you to rest fully, without interruption, without effort, without awareness of time passing at all. Your body sinks just a little deeper into the ground, or perhaps it only feels that way as the last edges of wakefulness disappear. The night continues, the earth continues, but you are no longer following them with your mind. You are resting within them completely, and as everything around you remains still and ancient and endlessly calm, you drift fully into sleep, carried by the quiet of a world that has never known anything else. The night remains, the earth remains, but you are no longer awake enough to hold them in any clear shape. Everything has softened beyond detail now, beyond thought, beyond the small effort of noticing. The prehistoric world is still around you in its endless quiet, but it has become something gentler than landscape. It is now only atmosphere, darkness, stillness, cool air resting lightly over ancient ground. The tree above you is no longer a form, it is only shelter. The stars above are no longer points of light, they are only distance. The plain beyond the hollow is no longer a place, it is only openness. And you, resting there in the deep silence of a world without cities, without voices, without walls, are no longer carrying the full shape of yourself either. You are simply breathing, slowly, softly, barely enough to disturb the air. The body has already surrendered most of its awareness. The mind has already released most of its tension. What remains is small and drifting, like the last pale ember of wakefulness cooling in the dark. You are safe here. Even that is no longer a sentence. It is the feeling of nothing pulling at you, nothing asking for your attention, nothing needing to be remembered before morning. The prehistoric earth has taken all sharpness away. It has removed all edges. It has reduced the world to only what sleep needs: darkness, stillness, and the steady permission to let go. Nothing is rushing anymore. Nothing is waiting. Nothing is unfinished. There is only this endless old quiet, and you are already disappearing, gently inside it, as the earth continues its slow breathing. The silence grows so complete that even the idea of listening begins to fade. There are no longer separate sounds to notice. If wind still moves across the grasses, if some distant life still stirs in the night, if the stars continue their patient distance overhead, none of it reaches you in the same waking way. Everything has become one continuous softness, one unbroken field of calm. The darkness behind your closed eyes is full now, but not empty. It is the kind of darkness that carries sleep, like water carries weight, without strain, without effort, without needing your help. You no longer need to follow breath. You no longer need to follow thought. They are both moving on their own now, gently, quietly, somewhere just beyond the last edge of awareness. The earth beneath you feels warm in some places, cool in others, but even that difference is becoming less distinct. The body is sinking too deeply into rest to keep measuring such things. There is a great mercy in that, to stop measuring, to stop naming, to stop holding the world in parts. Only time and earth exist, and even those final shapes of meaning are loosening now, fading into something older and more peaceful than words. Sleep has already entered fully. It is no longer near. It is no longer arriving. It is here, around you and within you, quiet and complete, somewhere far beneath thought. Perhaps the memory of the ancient plain still glows faintly. Perhaps the stream still moves through shadow. Perhaps the forest still stands in its deep green silence. Perhaps the stars still cover the humanless sky in pale, quiet light. But these are no longer scenes. They are only soft remnants, dream fragments, already dissolving into deeper rest. You do not need to hold on to any of them. They will remain without you. That is part of what makes this world so peaceful. It does not need your attention to continue. The earth has always known how to keep being itself in silence. And now, because you no longer need to remain awake inside it, you are free to drift fully into the deeper quiet below awareness. Your body is still. Your face is soft. Your hands rest where they fell. The ground holds every part of you with the same patient calm it has offered all night. The darkness does not move. The silence does not break. The old prehistoric world continues breathing in its vast and timeless way, and you are no longer separate from that rhythm. You are part of it now, not as a watcher, not as a traveler, only as something resting, something surrendered, something gone quiet enough to disappear. And so the last thin thread of wakefulness loosens without resistance. There is no ending to announce it, no moment to mark, only a deepening softness, a final release, a slow sinking into the most ancient kind of peace. The tree remains above you. The earth remains below you. The stars remain in their endless, patient places. But you have gone farther in now, beyond the need to know any of it clearly, beyond thought, beyond effort, beyond the small, bright restlessness of being awake. The prehistoric night keeps holding everything in its calm, dark hands, and you keep drifting further into sleep, where even the idea of drifting begins to disappear. Nothing is rushing anymore. Nothing will rush again tonight. There is only the great quiet of ancient earth, stretching on without sound, without urgency, without end. And somewhere inside that endless stillness, you rest completely,